Okay, are you ready for your vocabulary test? Oh, hello! Welcome! Quipster Puck here, along with my little helper. You know, kids nowadays get so much homework. It's hard to squeeze in time for our videos without having to deal with all this homework. I hope you don't mind if we go over her vocabulary during tonight's video. Okay, my dear. Your first word is ambitious. Loki had quite the ambitious plan trying to get me banished for eternity. Devastated. He will be devastated when he finds out that I'm free. Anger. I felt a bit of anger when Dell cut me off in that parking lot, although it did turn out to be a tasty treat. Outrage. I have felt no such outrage as when Loki got me banished. Okay, let's see how you did, my dear. Very good. Wait, you put the same definition for the last two words. Outrage is a bit more than being upset at something, my dear. Here, maybe tonight's story will help, teach you a little something about outrage. I hope that you can learn something as well. Enjoy!
Do you know the difference between anger and outrage? They probably seem so similar to you, but that is only because you have never truly experienced either. Well, let me explain it. When you are angry, there is always something deep inside you that knows that your side of the fight or the argument isn't really better than the other side. It's just your million-year-old monkey brain taking control, trying to protect its genes. But outrage is a different feeling altogether. It only happens when you know, beyond the slightest shadow of a doubt, that what you are dealing with is pure evil. You lose all empathy, or at least towards the specific thing you are outraged about. Do you think that as the Allied armies made their way into Germany and saw the piles of dead bodies in the concentration camps, that they had the slightest remorse after shooting the next SS officer they found? So now, hopefully you've started to get it. Now you can truly understand why I did what I did. To start out with, let's back up a year or so. I was 15 years old at the time. I had just failed all but one of my classes. My parents were getting a divorce, and to top it off, I was diagnosed with a cancer that, as the doctor said, had 50-50 odds of killing me. Needless to say, my mental state was in a pretty serious decline. I did have one savior, though. It was my cousin. He was a couple years older than me, and we were very close friends. It was his idea to get the dog. Only a few weeks later, and I was the proud owner of a licensed therapy dog. She was named Koko, which I thought was a pretty boring name, but since she was already 3 years old, I figured that she was already too used to that name for me to change it. Almost immediately, Koko was a huge help. The next semester, I kept a solid B+ average in all my classes, and finally made some new friends after 2 straight years sitting alone at lunch. By all accounts, that dog had improved my life significantly. Well, not by all accounts. I didn't explain my parents' divorce very well earlier, but it was in no way peaceful. Both of them wanted to get rid of me. In the last few weeks before the court decided who would get custody of me, they did everything they could to make the other one have to deal with me. That did include physical abuse. The judge didn't believe me when I said they had beaten me. After all, I was a teenager, and no doubt I was just lying about all this to rebel against my parents. Anyway, after all was said and done, they had to split custody of me evenly. The abuse didn't stop. Not even through the whole cancer diagnosis. I wonder what the doctor would have told me about my disease if I hadn't had bruises all over my body. But Koko was my sole consolation through all of it. She was the only thing keeping me from just ending it with some of my mom's sleeping pills. And so now, think about my parents. They wanted to get rid of me, and Koko was all that was keeping me alive. I really should have seen it coming. Koko wasn't waiting at the foot of my bed like she usually does. I think I already knew at that moment what had happened. But I wouldn't allow myself to accept it. I searched the forest near my mom's house, anywhere a shy chocolate lab would want to hide. That was a month ago. It was only a few days ago when I accepted Koko was gone. So I stopped looking. But I found her anyway. Well, at least I found her skeleton. The poor thing was quite far along in the decay process, but I knew it was her. There was no questioning it. Like I said, I should have expected them to do this. I was at my mom's house the night Koko went missing, but my father was visiting for a while. Here in the South, it's normal to hear gunshots at random times, but when I picked up Koko's burnt skull, I saw a hole above her eye socket, and there was something rattling inside. I do think I remember hearing a single shot the night Koko died. So now you understand why I needed you to learn the difference between anger and outrage. When I saw that dead dog, my entire existence meant only one thing. These people were killers and deserved far worse than what they had done. Killing someone isn't hard. It's even easier when your neighbors are a mile away. And when the only thing that gave your life value is gone. I wanted every pain receptor in their bodies firing at full capacity until the end of time. I killed my father first. It was slow. Just as it had to be for it to mean anything. I tied him down quickly. He was awake by the time I had his right arm tied onto the bed frame. He fought, but I had all 4 limbs. It didn't take long to have him entirely at my mercy. I knew how to make death painful. It's one of those things every edgy teen Googles at some point. He begged, of course, but the only thing that could make me stop was already long gone. I finished him off the same way he had disposed of Koko. Flames. I took a lighter and an aerosol can and scorched his limbs down to the bone. He was unconscious at this point, of course, but still alive. Just one more plume of flame sent down his throat, and his suffering was over. I repeated the process on my mother after walking for a few hours in the dark. She screamed more than he had. I'm sure every one of us has wanted someone dead at one point or another, but nobody ever does it, and that's a good thing. Most people, as bad as they are, don't deserve death. But outrage changes that. It is only when its grasp makes you certain of how evil your enemy is that you can kill without remorse. It is a calming feeling, in some ways, to be so absolutely certain. But certainty is not the same as reality. The bones of a beloved dog sure do look similar to those of some random coyote. Koko showed up on my doorstep the next morning, wagging her tail when she saw me.
Welcome back! I do hope that you enjoyed tonight's story. And I hope that you learned a little something about the difference between outrage and anger. Do you think that you're going to pass your test tomorrow? I'll tell you what, if you get a 100 on your test, I'll start teaching you how to make potions. I think she's sufficiently motivated, don't you? Well, if you enjoyed tonight's story and maybe learned a little something, then go ahead and like and leave a comment for us below. And if you haven't already done so, make sure you sub. We got a lot of tales coming your way, and a few surprises in store for you. Well, I guess that's all for the night. Ta-ta for now.